Discover God's incredible promises, 7 divine secrets for transforming faith. Unexpected blessings. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Joseph, the favored son of Jacob, Israel was immersed in the harsh realities of Canaan. This land was marked by uncertainty, where famine threatened and tribal disputes loomed, a canvas for the divine strokes of God's unfolding plan. Amidst this tension, Joseph was adorned in a colorful robe, a symbol of his father's unparalleled love. Little did he know how this gift would ignite the jealousy of his brothers. As dawn broke over the rugged hills of Hebron, Joseph tended the family flocks, but his heart soared with dreams that spoke of divine destiny. He shared one such vision with his brothers. They were binding sheaves in the field when his sheaf stood tall, overshadowing theirs. Their anger flared, and envy brewed like a storm. "Here comes that dreamer," they jeered, setting in motion a cascade of betrayal. They seized him, cast him into a pit, and plotted his demise. Alone in that dark abyss, Joseph cried out to God, clinging desperately to his faith, believing that even in this vale of despair, the God of his father heard him. Days later, his cries turned to silence as he was sold into the hands of Ishmaelite merchants, bound for Egypt, a land of splendors unknown. Yet even as a slave, the Lord's favor rested upon Joseph. The captain of Pharaoh's guard, Potiphar, recognized his integrity and made him overseer of his household. But temptations emerged, and the seductions of Potiphar's wife sought to ensnare him. Despite her relentless advances, Joseph, fueled by faithfulness to God and his master, fled from her grasp, but the price of his righteousness was high. False accusations led him straight to prison. In the confines of despair, Joseph clung to his dreams, believing God had a greater purpose for his suffering. Each dark night turned into a divine symphony of hope as he encountered God's presence. He interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh's cupbearer and the baker, proclaiming God's sovereignty over their destinies. Yet, amidst this budding hope, the cupbearer forgot Joseph's plight. For years, time passed until Pharaoh had a dream that no one could decipher. The cry rang out for Joseph, summoned from the darkness. Standing before Pharaoh, he boldly declared the divine meaning of the dreams: 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine. Immediately, the Lord's hand was upon him, raising him to greatness beside Pharaoh, a vessel of provision for the people. Yet, this elevation would lead to a reunion fraught with memories of betrayal. As famine struck the land, his brothers traveled to Egypt seeking grain. Their hearts trembled as they approached the powerful ruler, unaware that it was Joseph they stood before. Faces once filled with anger, now etched with fear, met the eyes of the one they had wronged. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In that charged moment, Joseph remembered the pit and the betrayal, but also the promise, a divine plan weaving through their actions. Would he unleash his wrath against them, or extend grace forged by years of faith? As their fearful gazes held his, a silent question echoed within him: could Joseph trust in God's greater plan amid uncertainty and pain? The memory of the colorful robe felt like a whisper of destiny, urging him toward forgiveness and reconciliation. What would unfold next was not just a story of retribution, but a profound testament to the faithful providence of God, a divine promise yet to be fully revealed. As the stillness of the chamber enveloped them, Joseph's heart surged with conflicting emotions. Looking upon the faces of his brothers, their anxiety palpable, he was confronted with the weight of their shared past. Memories of the pit, the disdainful shouts, and the bitter betrayal flooded his mind. Yet, alongside these memories, a voice, a divine echo, whispered promises of redemption and hope. He stepped closer, his voice steady as he broke the silence. You came to me not knowing the truth, but God sent me before you to preserve life. Though his words carried an authority born from years of suffering, there was a kindness that shone through his eyes. His brothers shifted uncomfortably as the realization of their misdeed crashed upon them like waves upon a shore. Unsure of his intentions, Joseph continued, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here, for it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you." With those words, he relinquished the bitterness of his past, recognizing that the hand of God, though sometimes hidden, had orchestrated his journey. In the land of Canaan, Jacob mourned his son for years, believing him dead, while in Egypt, Joseph rose to prominence, all part of a greater narrative that God was weaving through their very lives. The brothers faced each other, their guilt fresh as the morning dew, their hearts pounding with anxiety. What will he do? They thought. Will he seek vengeance? Will the same pit that swallowed him, now swallow us? With deep compassion, Joseph invited them to come closer, directing them to speak of their father and the family they had left behind. The words flowed like balm upon his soul as they recounted their familial bonds, their regret heavy in the air. "Bring my father here," he urged, his heart swelling with longing. "I desire to see him and ensure he is safe." As they processed his words, understanding began to dawn on them. This was not a moment of retribution, but a manifestation of grace. "This is truly our brother," they murmured in disbelief. The irony of their circumstances was not lost on Joseph. The very one they had wronged had now become their deliverer. Tears of reconciliation blurred their vision as they embraced, forged anew in love and forgiveness. The weight of guilt lifted, revealing the beauty of God's plan, a tapestry of lives intertwined for divine purpose. In the days that followed, Joseph prepared a place for his family in Egypt, a land where they would flourish amidst abundance in the years of plenty. Yet, the years of famine loomed, and in that dire reality, Joseph's role became ever more critical, a channel of provision not only for his kin but for many other nations. As the brothers departed to fetch their father, the promise of God's faithfulness loomed large in Joseph's heart. "God will fulfill his word," he whispered to himself, anchoring his hopes on the divine assurance of generations yet to unfold. His soul was at peace, knowing that he was part of a grander narrative that stretched beyond personal sacrifice, one that included the ultimate deliverance of a people bound for a promised land. But as he looked toward the horizon, a stirring in his spirit hinted at further divine revelation. Was this family story merely a prelude to a greater journey? Indeed, God's plan was still unfolding, and the echoes of destiny had yet more chapters to reveal. The time would come when their very names would resound throughout history, woven into the very fabric of redemption itself, a promise yet to be fully realized. As the sun began to set over the land of Egypt, casting golden rays upon the grain-stacked fields, Joseph turned his thoughts toward the journey his brothers would soon embark upon. With elation and trepidation intertwined, he sensed that this was not merely a reunion but a turning point in their family's legacy. Days turned as night fell, and at last, the brothers returned with their father, Jacob, whose heart was heavy with grief and burden of years elapsing in sorrow. As they approached Joseph's palace, their hearts raced, shadowed by uncertainty, yet illuminated by hope that Joseph's words had begun to sow. Joseph stood at the threshold, his heart aching at the sight of his father, aged and weary. "It is I, Joseph, your son," he said, his voice quivering with love. Jacob's eyes widened as he stepped forward, unable to grasp the reality of the reunion. "Joseph, my son," Jacob uttered, tears streaming down his face, pouring forth years of despair. "How can this be? Is it true?" Their embrace drew them into a cocoon of restoration, lineage and love woven together beyond the confines of mortal understanding. "Come, let us gather and celebrate," Joseph declared, uplifting his kin. Together they entered the palace, the air thick with emotion, a sacred symphony orchestrated by the hands of the Almighty. In the days that followed, Joseph introduced Pharaoh to his father and brothers, and favor smiled upon them. "The land of Goshen," Pharaoh decreed, "will be your dwelling, where you will flourish among the elect." Thus, the family settled in the fertile region, blessed beyond measure. Yet Joseph, ever mindful of the coming years, prepared for the famine that lay on the horizon, a divine test not merely of sustenance but of faith. He understood that this meant more than physical provision. the very survival of their family and the nations beyond depended on it. One particular evening, as the stars dotted the midnight sky, Joseph meditated upon the dreams he had received in his youth. Within the quiet thrumming of his heart, a question ignited profound conviction: what grander plan does the Lord weave in this unfolding story? How will these trials mold his people? And surely, the Spirit of God stirred within him, for he sensed that these days of plenty were mere preparation for the hardships to come. He recalled the prophetic word spoken through the ages, the covenant promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and his father Jacob, that one day their descendants would grow as numerous as the stars in the sky. Through suffering and perseverance, we shall become a great nation, Joseph affirmed, knowing that even in their anguish, God's design was to anchor hope through the generations. Yet as he gazed into the darkness, a sense of urgency enveloped him. Could there be more than protection and sustenance involved? Would the ultimate climax of salvation flare up amidst their trials, leading not only to their deliverance but to the salvation of many? Thus, Joseph prayed earnestly, seeking wisdom, his heart open to the winds of divine revelation. And as he sought with fervor, the still, small voice of God beckoned deep within his spirit, whispering of destinies intertwined, of the promise of a Redeemer who would come forth from their lineage, a promise whose light would one day overshadow the darkness. For the unfolding story was not solely for one family, rather, it echoed a promise reverberating through the ages. Little did they know, God had orchestrated a plan reaching beyond their immediate plight, a plan echoing through the corridors of history, destined to yield redemption for a lost world. With a heart awakened to God's grace, Joseph felt the stirring of something greater on the horizon, a divine pulse, a miraculous unfolding yet to reveal the depth of love and sacrifice that would extend through generations. In all these, God was weaving a legacy of hope, a testament of faith, and a promise yet to echo across the ages. As the seasons turned, and days ripened into years, the family of Joseph flourished in the land of Goshen. The fields bore abundant harvests, and their livestock increased, filling the land with life and prosperity. Yet amid this bounty, Joseph remained vigilant, aware of the whispers of a future trial that loomed like a shadow on the horizon point. One day, as he walked through the golden fields, a deep unrest filled his heart. The Spirit of God within him stirred once more. The time of famine is drawing near, just as I have foreseen, he mused, remembering the burden and lessons written upon his soul through dreams. What strategy shall I set forth to prepare our people? That night, he gathered his brothers and their families to impart wisdom. The light of the lamp flickered, casting shadows upon the stone walls of their abode. Beloved brethren, Joseph began, his voice steady with authority and compassion, the days of abundance will soon wane. We must store grain and prepare to endure the trial that the Lord has revealed to me. It is not merely for our survival, but it is a testament to his faithfulness. The brothers listened as Joseph recounted his dreams of the sheaves of wheat, bowing low before his. God has ordained a purpose beyond our understanding. Even our suffering will lead us to deeper faith, he declared. And with each word, he wove hope into the hearts beset by anxiety. Trusting Joseph's leadership, they began gathering grain, measuring out the harvest carefully, fulfilling the divine instruction that echoed within Joseph's soul. They worked together, filling the granaries until they brimmed like the promises of God, the weight of their labor reminding them that God's providence was always near. But in the corridors of time, the world outside Egypt began to succumb to famine. The plagues of drought struck the lands beyond the Nile, devastating nations. Soon, word reached them that many flocked to Egypt seeking aid, for Joseph had become a beacon of sustenance ordained by the Almighty. Among those who came to buy grain was Jacob, the patriarch, weary from concern and stripped of remaining hope. "Why should we sit idle?" he exclaimed to his sons one morning. "Go down to Egypt, perhaps there we may find the sustenance needed for our survival." The brothers heeded their father's plea, their hearts heavy with remembrance of the past betrayal, yet compelled by their love for Jacob. As they neared the gates of Pharaoh's great city, the memories of their sin against Joseph surged, and dread crept into their spirits. Joseph, recognizing his brothers as they approached, felt a surge of emotions within him. They were changed, laden with loss and humility. Yet the clash of recognition was overshadowed by the pain of the past. Disguised, he tested their hearts. "You are spies," he proclaimed sharply, urging them to reveal their intentions. Fear enveloped the brothers. They fell upon their knees, pleading for mercy and answers. "We are but servants, the sons of one man, and our father lives still. We came to buy food, and your servant has nothing but guilt," they implored. At that moment, Joseph's heart broke with longing for reconciliation mixed with unresolved pain. As he turned away, tears flooded his eyes, drowning him in memories of love and loss. Could God indeed reconcile what was once set ablaze by misdeeds? But deep within, Joseph understood he was but a part of a greater unfolding, that through this crucible, the hand of God would move. The very trials that wrought fear could become instruments of grace. He resolved to reveal himself, but not yet. The path forward must ignite with genuine contrition and restoration. As he left them in confusion, a thought pierced his soul. But in what grand tapestry does this moment fit? How shall God's promise echo through all of history from this point? Thus, the stage was set for an encounter saturated with divine purpose and sacrifice, as the journey toward redemption unfolded, a promise yet to be revealed, orchestrated by the sovereign Creator who wove together the threads of loss and life. 4. Indeed, the promise of a Redeemer that dwelt within the hearts of his people hung in the balance. Joseph's heart was a tumult of emotions as he watched his brothers retreat into the dimming light of the Egyptian market. Their anguish churned in him like the swirling Nile. He remained concealed, his countenance wrought with both grief and anticipation, pondering the intricate threads that God was weaving through their lives. It was on the third day since their arrival that Joseph summoned his brothers once more. He bound Simeon before their eyes, declaring, "If you wish to prove your honesty, return to your father and bring your younger brother to me. Then I shall know that you are not spies, but men of integrity." Panic seized the brothers, and they huddled together, whispering in fear. "This has come upon us because of what we did to Joseph," Reuben said, his voice shaking with remorse. "We saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we did not listen. But the Lord's hand has not left us," Judah replied softly, casting a glance towards the horizon. "We must fulfill this journey, or else our father will die of sorrow." They spoke as though they were conversing with God himself, for in their lament lay the seeds of awakening. Joseph, hidden from sight, could barely contain his emotions. He stepped aside into a private chamber, his heart aflame with compassion as sobs echoed off the cold stones. How could I deal harshly with them? He reflected, messengers of divine grace caught in their past sins. The brothers returned home, and with them they bore the grain. As they laid the provisions before Jacob, their father's eyes darkened with dread. "You say you must bring Benjamin? This cannot be," he lamented. "I have already lost Joseph, I cannot lose my other son." He clutched his chest, the pain of loss binding him like chains. Days turned to weeks, and the famine's grip tightened, forcing Jacob's resolve to weaken. Finally, he relented, pressing his sons with fervent pleas for their brother's safety. "If we must go again, take this silver and my love for your brother. May God Almighty give you mercy before the man," he declared, relinquishing Benjamin into their care. Unsure yet hopeful, with heavy hearts and stormy souls, the brothers ventured back to Egypt. Their return was met with Joseph's stern gaze, a face they barely recognized. He saw Benjamin, the child of Rachel, and this sight snares his heart anew. "Your father, is he alive? Is he well?" he inquired, his voice straining against the weight of hidden affection. With each response, his brothers nodded, their hearts raw with a mix of tribulation and awe. Joseph hastened to prepare a feast, a banquet worthy for the sons of Jacob, yet his own heart wrestled beneath the layers of reticent joy. He could hardly contain the tides of emotion that welled within him as he laid eyes on the brother who had not borne his betrayal. Suddenly, Joseph's spirit surged forth with the understanding that these moments were not merely fate, they were laced with destiny. Within the fleeting seconds of grace, the heart of God beat with a promise eternal. Is this not the story of sacrifice and restoration? He pondered. For our family to flourish, we must confront the shadows of our past. His eyes could not part from Benjamin, for he knew the echo of forgiveness was a precursor to the revelation that awaited. As Joseph prepared his final plan to unveil the truth, the moment burgeoned with the very essence of mercy. He stood on the precipice of divine revelation. The threads of redemptive history intertwined. Would his brothers recognize their need for deliverance, and thus, a shadow of divine mystery loomed over the banquet. For within this sacred gathering, the realization of God's incredible promises awaited an unexpected unfolding that would challenge their faith and usher in blessings beyond comprehension. What wondrous purpose would emerge from this communion of souls? The answers lie hidden in the embrace of forgiveness, yet to be revealed. While the fragrant dishes were laid before them, the atmosphere crackled with unspoken tension. Joseph, taking his place at the head of the table, caught the glances of his brothers, noting their muted awe amidst the plentiful feast. The very fabric of their lives was being rewoven by divine intention. "Eat, my brothers, and let your hearts be at ease," Joseph said, masking his emotions under a veneer of authority. Yet inside, he was acutely aware that this gathering was more than a meal, it was a divine appointment. The echoes of his own heartache mingled with the collective suffering of those who shared this table. As the meal progressed, Benjamin sat beside Joseph, his innocence a stark contrast to the haunting past that loomed over them. With every bite, memories flooded Joseph's mind, the laughter of their childhood, the shared dreams that turned into nightmares. He could see, in the shared features of his brothers, the lineage of his father, Jacob, the promise of a covenant made long ago. Before long, Joseph acted upon his intention. "You have come as shepherds of your father's household," he declared, "but reflections of the past will not determine your future. I will test your hearts to see if they have been changed." The eyes of his brothers widened in uncertainty, aware that this was no ordinary meal. "Fill the men's sacks with food, and put each man's money back in their sack," Joseph instructed his steward. "But for my brother Benjamin, place my silver cup within his sack." He was crafting a scenario that would reveal their transformation. This was a test of character, not merely a trial of circumstances. As the sun sank below the horizon, the brothers departed with their provisions. Their hearts were lighter, but Joseph's ruse was yet to unfold. At dusk, he sent riders to pursue them with swift urgency. "Why have you repaid good with evil?" the steward accused upon catching them. "The Lord of the land searches for his silver cup, which is a treasure of great significance." Fear clutched their hearts as they immediately responded, "We would not steal. Let us be examined, and if any of us are found with it, we shall become your servants." They hastily checked their sacks, one after another, until at last, the final sack was opened, and there it lay, Joseph's cup gleaming with undeniable authority. "Benjamin!" they cried, the wounds of their past surfacing like a tempest from within them. They understood the gravity of the situation. This would lead to their brother's enslavement, repeating their own grievous act of betrayal against Joseph so long ago. "Take me instead," Judah implored, his voice tinged with desperation and remorse. "Let my brother go, for he is like the life of our father. Do not let grief overwhelm an already broken heart." The weight of Judah's plea echoed through the heart of Joseph, igniting memories of their shared blood and heritage. At that moment, Joseph could no longer restrain the flood of emotions. With tears streaming down his face, he revealed himself to his brothers. "I am Joseph, your brother whom you sold into Egypt. Do not be distressed or angry with yourselves." His voice was filled with compassion, as the gravity of forgiveness hung palpably in the air. The brothers were speechless, caught in the web of their past and present. Joseph's heart swelled with love and grace. "God sent me before you to preserve life," he continued, unveiling the divine purpose that had been cloaked in mystery. In an awe-striking moment, the revelation dawned. This was not just a reunion, but the embodiment of God's faithfulness and sovereignty, a story leading not only to the redemption of one family but the salvation of many. What would unfold next as they embraced the power of reconciliation? As all truths were laid bare, the unmistakable thread of God's amazing covenant promises was being intricately woven through the lives of Joseph and his brothers. A divine mystery awaited to be fully realized. What future would God orchestrate from such a painful past? The answer lay hidden in his unyielding love and eternal plan, waiting to be revealed. As Joseph gazed upon the bewildered faces of his brothers, the air thickened with both sorrow and hope. The weight of their past surged forth as they began to grasp the enormity of their present. Benjamin clutched his brother's arm, wide-eyed with disbelief. "Is it truly you, Joseph?" he whispered, as if uttering the name could dissolve the years of separation and pain. "Yes," Joseph replied, voice firm yet tender, "I am your brother. What you meant for evil, God has woven for good." His words struck like a well-aimed arrow, piercing the very core of their guilt and shame while igniting a flicker of revelation. The brothers, cast in shadows of past misdeeds, found themselves standing on the precipice of a divine future. Joseph stepped closer, his heart buoyed by the presence of his family. "Do not be afraid," he continued, "for God sent me before you to save our lives from this famine." Embracing them tightly, Joseph felt the warmth of kinship surge through him, mingling with the ache of betrayal. "Come, let us not dwell on the pain of what has transpired, but celebrate the thread of God's mercy that has woven us back together." With the weight of despair lifting, Judah was the first to find his voice amid the quaking silence. "What we have done is unforgivable," he confessed. "Yet here you stand, Joseph, ready to offer grace." Joseph smiled gently. "Indeed, grace is the foundation upon which our lives are to be rebuilt. For I know that our Father watches over us, guiding our steps through every trial." Carrying the burden of reconciliation, Joseph led his brothers back into the heart of Egypt, where the land he had learned to call home now offered sanctuary to his family. The brothers' hearts stirred with anticipation and wonder, sensing that they were embarking on a journey not merely of survival, but of revival. And as the stars adorned the night sky, illuminating the path before them, the brothers began to share stories of their father Jacob, the legacy of their home, and the dreams they once harbored. Within their tales lay the foundation of a future that was yet unfinished, where hope fluttered like the wings of a dove, promising a new beginning. Once they arrived at Joseph's household, he ordered a feast to be prepared, each meal a testament to the abundance they had almost lost. "Bring my father here," Joseph urged, eyes glimmering with excitement. "For our reunion must sing of hope and of promise." In the midst of the celebration, Joseph turned to his brothers again, urging them, "Do not tell my father of your misdeeds, but share the good tidings of my rise in Pharaoh's favor. Let him see the hand of God in our lives." Thus, the banquet unfolded, rich with food and laughter, like a balm for their wounded hearts. The lingering echoes of past sins began to fade beneath the chorus of new memories, yet still, Joseph could not help but contemplate the threads of fate that led him here. "What more does God have in store for us?" he thought, pondering the part of the journey yet to be revealed. With each toast raised, the brothers recalled the covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, their future entwined with promises that held their very souls, and in that moment of joy, as the days moved forward, Joseph felt an unyielding assurance grow within him. The Lord was weaving something far greater than he could understand, a divine narrative of salvation not only for them, but for all the children of Israel to come. So it was here that the mystery lay, deep and yet burgeoning with life, a prophecy waiting to unfold, rooted in divine sovereignty and the rich soil of heartfelt reconciliation. Just beyond the horizon, a tale of redemption awaited its telling, echoing through generations. What other secrets would be uncovered as they walked in faith? The tapestry of God's plan was yet incomplete, and like the dawn that breaks with each new day, so too would his glory shine upon the paths ahead. As dawn broke over Egypt, a golden light spilled into Joseph's household, illuminating faces that had once known only darkness and despair. Joseph, filled with anticipation, summoned his steward. "Prepare a vehicle for my father," he commanded, his voice vibrant with hope. "The day of reunion is at hand." The news spread swiftly, the hearts of the brothers beating like drums of war against their chests. "We will return to Canaan," Judah spoke eagerly, glancing at his siblings, "and bring back father, lest we delay this as we have delayed so much before." With each fleeting hour, their excitement built like the swelling tide, for the prospect of seeing Jacob again was a promise forged in years of heartache and longing. They remembered the weight of what they had wrought, their hearts still heavy with past transgressions, yet they were now buoyed by the possibility of restoration. As the chariots rolled forth, bearing the brothers toward their homeland, Joseph's spirit soared, a divine spark igniting within him. He could not shake the feeling that his brothers were on the precipice of extraordinary blessings, yet his heart quivered in concern. Will they embrace our father with the love he deserves? He wondered. Will they heed the lessons we have learned? Meanwhile, in Canaan, Jacob labored under the weight of his son's presumed loss, though he held tightly to the memories of Joseph, the favored one, whose laughter echoed through the chambers of his heart. When Joseph's brothers arrived, filled with fervor and breathless excitement, a shadow of doubt settled upon Jacob's brow. "What is this you speak?" he questioned, struggling to comprehend such an improbable reunion. "Joseph is dead." But they implored him with earnest voices, "No. For he lives, and is ruler over all of Egypt. Come, let us go and see him." And as the old man listened, hope, a fragile ember, began to flicker within him, igniting the dry wood of his weary spirit. "You speak truly?" Jacob's heart raced. His brothers shared tales of Joseph's power, his wisdom, the bounty of Egypt, and the mercy he had bestowed upon them. And seeing their transformed faces, Jacob's heart began to soften. At last, it was the sight of the chariots filled with lavish gifts from his son that sent Jacob's spirit soaring. "It is enough. My son Joseph lives. I must go to him before I die," he declared, a longing surging through him, surpassing the boundaries of his grief. With a newfound purpose, Jacob set out with his sons, his mind set on a journey that promised not merely joy, but an understanding of divine plans that had been advancing through pain and forgiveness. As they traveled the dusty roads toward Egypt, Jacob spoke of the promises made to his forefathers, the same promises that God had ordained woven into the very fabric of their existence. Meanwhile, Joseph awaited with bated breath, his heart a blend of joy and anticipation. What if he cannot forgive? He pondered. What blessings shall unfold if all is made right? Finally, as Jacob neared the gates of Egypt, Joseph could scarcely contain himself. He rode forth in his chariot, dressed in splendor, prepared for the moment that would change their family dynamics forever. When their eyes met, the world fell away, and in that sacred space, Joseph leapt from his chariot and dashed forward, falling at the feet of his father. "Father!" he cried, tears streaming down his cheeks. They embraced, and in this moment, all wounds of the past began to heal, and in the stillness of their reunion, God's whispers echoed through time and space. "Remember, this is but the beginning," he seemed to convey. "For through this family's forgiveness, I shall weave a greater tapestry, a nation shall arise. My covenant shall flourish anew." What would this newly mended family bring forth in the grand design of God's eternal promise? The future loomed before them, ripe with potential, echoing the sacred truth: God's plan is often unveiled through reconciliation, beckoning his children toward unimagined blessings and heartfelt unity. What miracles awaited in the land of Egypt? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, within the heart of faith and God's unwavering love. As the sun cast a warm glow over the land of Egypt, the heart of Joseph swelled with joy and reverence. He led his father into his home, and the hallways, once filled with shadows of old, now thrummed with life and laughter. The air was thick with fragrant spices and sweet offerings, tokens of reconciliation and abundance, crafted by Joseph's own hands. Jacob, gazing around, marveled at the splendor around him. "Surely, the Lord's favor rests upon this place," he spoke, tears shimmering in his eyes. "Do I truly behold the son I thought lost? Am I still among the living?" "Fear not, my father," Joseph reassured him. "For I have prevailed against the trials of life for your sake, and our family shall prosper here." His voice carried a depth of understanding that only the journey of his years could forge, a journey that had led him through the darkness but also into the light of divine providence. In the coming days, they shared meals that echoed with past stories and laughter that rattled the walls. And as blessings unfolded like petals of a blooming flower, Jacob began to find solace in the embrace of a family again. Yet, beneath the joy, a question lingered in his heart: how shall this grace continue? One night, as Joseph lay beside his father, he spoke of the dreams that had once haunted his youth, the sheaves of grain bowing, the celestial beings honoring him. What you once called folly, my father, has unfolded into our reality. For I now see how God has orchestrated this journey to save many from famine and despair, Joseph declared, his voice steady like the churning Nile. As dawn broke anew, he gathered his brothers before him. Now, let us go before Pharaoh, for I must tell him of our kin and the blessings that shall arise from this union. He shall know our God is the source of our preservation. With solemn resolve, Joseph approached Pharaoh's court, a place filled with majesty. "O king," he proclaimed, "I have brought my family into the land. They are shepherds and skilled in tending livestock. Grant them a place here, among the choicest lands of Goose." Pharaoh's eyes widened at the news of Joseph's family. "What is your father's name?" he inquired. "Jacob, the son of Isaac," Joseph answered, each name a link in the chain of promise God had forged. "Let it be so," Pharaoh granted, "that your family shall dwell in the land of Goshen. They shall thrive as you have thrived. They are indeed favored, just as you." As the brothers returned to Jacob with favorable tidings, they carried news that would blossom into a new beginning. Jacob, though aged and weary, felt the vigor of life returning to his bones. He reclaimed his position as patriarch, his heart rejoicing as he prepared for a new era of blessing. Yet, amid this renewed hope, there flickered a shadow of the past. "What of the heart of my sons?" Jacob pondered. "Shall they carry the weight of their sins, or will God's mercy grant them peace? For in forgiveness lies the key to our future." As they gathered in their tent beneath the starry sky, Jacob prayed fervently, seeking God's guidance for his family. "May Yahweh bless our lineage and protect our hearts from strife. May we remember the lessons learned beneath the weight of our burdens." In this sacred moment, a wind swept through the air, a whisper of divine assurance. "Fear not, for I am with you," echoed the voice of God in Jacob's heart. "From you, a great nation shall arise. Through trials, I have woven a story of grace." And in the silence that followed, the vision of future generations danced like stars, illuminating the night sky with the promise of covenant. What pathways would unfold, and how would God's faithfulness guide them in the years to come? The tapestry of their lives was being stitched together by hands unseen, holding firm all that was lost and preparing them for glories yet to be realized. Indeed, a mystery lay ahead awaiting revelation, anchored in God's unfailing love. As the years unfolded in the land of Goshen, the family of Joseph flourished, each day a testament to God's divine providence. The sun cast its golden hues upon the fields, ripening the harvest, as Joseph guided his kin in their newfound prosperity. Jacob settled into the rhythm of life, his heart rejuvenated by the abundant blessings surrounding him. In the evenings, he would gather his sons, sharing stories of the God who had kept their lineage intact, reminding them of the divine covenant that stretched back to their forefathers. But even amidst joy, shadows of the past lingered, quietly tugging at the hearts of Jacob's sons. One evening, as twilight draped over the land, Jacob addressed his sons, seeking to instill within them a clearness of purpose. "My sons," he began, his voice firm yet gentle, "the Lord has been gracious to us. But we must remember from whence we came. We have seen how bitterness can sow strife and division in our hearts. Let us tend to it with love and forgiveness, for the trials of our past have forged us into a family united." On hearing this, Joseph felt a stir within his spirit. He knew that while the external storms had calmed, the deeper storms of guilt and resentment still brewed in the hearts of his brothers. He recognized that it was time to confront the remnants of their past, presenting not just a story of survival, but a narrative of healing rooted in grace. "Brothers," Joseph called to them, gathering them in the shade of an old olive tree. "We stand at the threshold of a new beginning. Our life here bears witness to the faithfulness of God in our lives. It is essential that we not only rejoice in our blessings but also acknowledge the weight we bore together. For what is our legacy if we fail to embrace the power of forgiveness? The brothers looked upon him, their hearts heavy with consciousness of the pain they had caused, yet hope glimmered like the first rays of dawn. With resolute hearts, they each recounted their hesitations and fears, the path of repentance leading them through humble confessions. They realized their pain was not merely an individual burden but a family wound, one that God was inviting them to heal through reconciliation and love. Tears flowed freely, washing away the remnants of past bitterness as they embraced the weight of forgiveness settling gently upon their shoulders. As my brothers forgive, so too must we forgive ourselves, Joseph declared, raising his voice in fervor. For one cannot hold on to grace while clutching on to guilt. God has delivered us, and through him, we are restored. As he spoke, the air became charged with divine presence, enveloping them in peace. Days turned into weeks, and the brothers assisted in tending to their flocks and fields, now alive with laughter and unity. Under their father's guidance, they began to worship the Lord together, acknowledging his provisions and his hand upon their lives. They dedicated altars in the countryside, using the sweet perfumes of incense, their hearts aligned in gratitude. In those sacred moments, they recounted the stories from their past, the pain of loss, the depth of betrayal, and the miracle of forgiveness unveiled through Joseph's bold love. A sense of purpose settled within them, awakening dreams of a future where their lineage would sway in harmony with the heartbeat of God's covenant, a promise fulfilled through reconciliation. As the years pressed on, the family of Jacob grew, filling the land of Goshen with vibrant life. Generations arose, carrying with them the weighty legacy of freedom forged through trials and a heart of worship rooted in forgiveness. And thus, in God's divine orchestration, the sons of Jacob became the foundation of a great nation, the Israelites, who would one day echo the stories of their ancestors' narratives of hope and redemption encompassing the vast tapestry of God's faithfulness. In this culmination of their journey, Joseph remained a guiding figure, a witness to the transformative power of faith. Each night, as he looked towards the horizon where the stars adorned the heavens, he was reminded, God's promises transcend beyond the shadows of betrayal into a glorious dawn of restoration. And so, dear reader, let this narrative resonate within you. Reflect on the divine paths laid before each character. The tapestry woven by God's hand reminds us that no matter the depths of our past, reconciliation and redemption are always at hand. It is your choice to embrace the grace offered by God, not only to forgive but to thrive amidst his abundant blessings. Now, let us take action together. The stories of God's faithfulness beckon. Subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next powerful biblical stories that will ignite your faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm. In the comments below, share your spiritual reflections. How has this biblical story impacted your faith? And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth. Join us as we continue to explore the depths of God's love together.